Hey guys, it's Sansuki and welcome to my instructional video for Pillars of Eternity on the topic of damage calculation. And this video is partially being created because one of my subscribers, Perez, I think it's pronounced P4R3S, asked that I do a set of videos for like new people who haven't exactly followed development or something like that. And I was hoping that the newest back-updated patch would be out this before the weekend, but it wasn't. So I've sort of found myself with not really that much left to do. So here I am. I'm going to do a video on damage calculation. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the inventory screen, and then I'm going to right-click on a weapon. Okay, so here we have a fine sword. Actually, no, I'll open up a normal weapon. Here we have a dagger. Okay, so it says that in this bracket here, it says the base damage of a dagger is 8 to 12, which is one of the damage ranges of the three different types of melee weapons in the game. There are fast weapons, normal weapons, and two-handed weapons. The dagger is a fast weapon, and the standard damage range of a fast weapon is 8 to 12. Now, we also have normal weapons, which I don't actually have any equipped, so I'm going to summon one with a cheat. Add item sword 1. Okay, so this is a one-handed normal weapon, which is a sword, and the base damage of a one-handed normal weapon is 11 to 16. And then we have a two-handed weapons. I'll summon one of those as well. Add item great sword 1. Okay, this is a great sword, and a great sword is a two-handed weapon, and the base damage of a two-handed weapon is 14 to 20. Now, what happens in the back end of the game is that the game will roll a random number between 14 and 20 for when you're rolling for damage. Okay, so the first thing that affects damage is the attack resolution system, which I might explain in a different video, but basically it's not that complicated. There are basically four outcomes for an attack, and everything in this game that is an offensive action makes an attack, whether it's a stun or a mage spell or a trap going off. It all rolls to hit. There's a couple of things that break those rules currently, but I don't think they should be. I've already reported them in the bug forums. So what would happen is you'll make an attack, and the four outcomes are miss, graze, hit, and critical hit, which is usually shortened to crit in the game, and it's displayed as crit in the combat log. And I think also when you can also mouse over things in descriptions, and it brings up a tooltip for it. And crit is one of those words that brings up a tooltip. Now, what a hit is just the standard damage. It will just roll between 14 and 20 on this weapon. A graze will halve the amount, like halve the rolled damage, but it didn't used to be this way. What now happens is that graze and crits are damage multipliers, and they multiply the damage. However, you can have multiple damage multipliers in Pillars of Eternity, and that is how bonus damage is handled in the game. So a graze is a damage multiplier, and what will happen is it will divide the rolled number by 0.5. However, if there is multiple damage multipliers, they are all added together instead of multiplying the base value over and over again, which can lead to quadratic damage values when you have lots of multipliers. So this character here that I've made, if I go into the character sheet, has 19 might, which gives me plus 27% damage and healing. Now, might bonus damage is a damage multiplier, so what I'm getting here is plus 0.27 to my damage, to my base damage. So like if I roll a 14, it would be 14 times 1.27 because I've got 19 might, and if I roll a hit, that's what my damage would be. However, if I roll a graze, it becomes like 14 times, and then it would be 0.5 plus 0.27. So instead of being time 1.27, which would be a hit, it would be 0.77, and so it would be 14 times 0.77. And crits make your roll damage, they increase your roll damage by times 1.5, and that's also an additive multiplier. So if I roll a 14 and I have 19 might, which gives me plus 27% damage, my damage multiplier would be 14 times 1.77, which is 1.5, or sorry, 1 plus 0.5 for being a crit, and then plus 0.27 for being for having 19 might. So it would be, I can't exactly remember what that value is off by heart, because maths isn't one of my strengths. I'm more of a logical thinker. It would be close to 26 or something damage probably. And then there are also many multipliers in the game which add on top of that. And the most common one that you'll see on top of that is quality enchantments for weapons. This is just for weapon damage. One of the things that's kind of strange in this game is that weapons can be enchanted and they have quality. They have different. They can have different qualities and stuff, but spells do not scale. There is no, like, the only thing that affects your spells are your attributes and any kind of things that modify your attributes and any items that modify spells and stuff like that. So weapons can have a quality enchantment. One of those is called Fine, which adds. This is a bit misleading when it's displayed as times 1.15 because it's not really times 1.15. It's plus 15% damage. So if I have a sword and I roll 14, so I'll go back to this one here because the base damage is displayed differently for normal and fine weapons. So you can see here, because this isn't a fine weapon, the base damage is 11 to 16. When you go on the fine sword, it says base damage is 13 to 18 because it takes into account this multiplier here. So it's basically 11 to 16 plus 15%, which is, it's not exactly this value. There are some decimal values or float values that are actually tracked by the game, but the rounded value is 13 to 18. So what it would become if I roll 14 with a fine sword is 14 and then times 1 plus 0.27, which is 1.27, plus 0.15, which is 1.42. So that's how much damage it would do if you had a fine weapon and you rolled a 14 on a normal hit, and then that would be modified by crits and grazes. You can sort of get the hang of how damage is now calculated in the game. Damage can also be modified by abilities. So here there's an ability called Blinded Strike, which adds 25% to the damage multiplier of your hits. Full attack means it makes an attack with both weapons if you have them equipped, which is actually very strong because there's no recovery time in between both of the attacks. So Blinding Strike's actually a very strong rogue ability. I always choose it because it's awesome. And a Blinding Strike with 19 might and a fine weapon would be a multiplier of plus what would be 1.67. So 0.25 plus 0.15 plus 0.27. So 14 times 1.67 would be how much damage you would do on a blinding strike when you hit. Then you can modify that with crits and grazes as well. There are also items that can reduce the crit damage, such as Girdle of Mortal Protection, which reduces crit damage by 0.73. Now the calculation for this is the crit multiplier, which is 0.5 for most cases, times 0.73, which changes it to 1.365, or sorry, 0.365. There are weapons and talents and all sorts of other things that can increase your crit damage. One of those is Bloody Slaughter, the Barbarian talent Barbaric Blow, and also Battle Axes do more crit damage. So that value would then be times 0.73 to reduce the damage of that. There are other things that change the damage of stuff in the game. One of those is DR reduction, which is related to armor. So here I have a fighter that has damage reduction of 12, and it has a different DR for there's multiple damage types in the game, and 3 of those are slash, pierce, and shock. The other ones I believe are crush, corrode, burn, and roar, which ignores DR, and there's another one, I think freeze is the other one. So there's 4 elemental types plus 3 mundane types, and then raw damage, which ignores DR. So if an arquebus does pierce damage. So if I was shooting the fighter who's wearing plate armor, it would have 15 pierce DR, but that's not actually correct because this value here is a decimal because this damage reduction value is a percentage of the base one. I'm pretty sure it's times, it's 125%, so it would be like 15.5 or 15.25 or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, what would happen is if I was attacking the fighter, this DR reduction would reduce that armor by 6. So instead of facing off against 15, it would be facing off against 9 instead. And this here is a reduction to crit damage multiplier. So if you remember before how I talked about stuff that increases your crit damage multiplier, this one here reduces it. So crits with guns only do it only adds 0.2 to the crit multiplier, and then that could also be further reduced by this here. So it would be 0.2 times 0.73. Now that's most of the stuff, and yeah, okay. So DR bypass, damage calculations, and all that. There's also a few things that, like for instance, monk unarmed damage adds integer bonus damage to the monk's fists, but you can't enchant the monk's fists, which makes them weaker than other weapons. So hopefully that changes in the future. Now I'll go on to enchanting as well. As you can see, here's the quality enchantments. So now the thing with weapons in this game is, in the current patch, accuracy is not really that necessary anymore. It's good to have maybe up to about 15 higher accuracy than an enemy's defense, but after that, if the choice is between +8 accuracy and times like 1.3 damage, I'm going to choose times 1.3 damage. And all of these damage multipliers stack, but there are some suppression rules in the game also, where if you have bonus accuracy coming from 2 sources that aren't related to weapons, one of those will be suppressed. I'm fairly sure it would be the same with bonus damage as well, but the types of bonuses you can get from different items are restricted to certain items. So I don't know if you can actually get bonus accuracy from any of the other item types apart from weapons. For instance, armor enchantments, you can only get bonus DR against different types. You can get attribute bonuses, or you can get quality bonuses, which increases the DR or the base DR. And then there's a few other unique ones as well. So hopefully that basically covers damage. The other thing I have to talk about is DR, which is the armor in the game. I'll do that now as well. Okay, so armor in this game slows your, and also attack speed is the other thing.
Yes.
So I've spoken about damage calculation. Now the other important thing to know is how fast you're going to be attacking, and that is very poorly displayed by the game. There are 3 categories of melee weapons in this game, and one of those is the fast weapon, which I talked about before, and that covers daggers, stilettos, rapiers, clubs, and flails, I think. I think that's all of them. And they have an animation time, which is I'll show you what that means. So that animation there, that is the animation time of the weapon. Now I missed. So that animation time there that you saw is, I'm actually wearing armor, so I'll take that off. My apologies. This animation time is 0.667 seconds. The full animation of the attack, and the animation speed in this game is 30 frames a second, so that animation there was 20 frames long. Now fast weapons have a recovery time, which is the time between making an attack and making another one of 20 frames, plus and then there's a global recovery time multiplier that slows your recovery down, because the standard recovery times were apparently too quick, so they slowed them down. So that would now be an animation time of 20 frames, which is 0.667 seconds, plus a recovery time of 20 frames, and then times 1.4, which is 28 frames, which is 0.9333 seconds, and that creates a total attack time of dual-wielding daggers of 1.6 seconds for each attack. So that's... Looks to be a bit quicker than that, though, doesn't it? I have to see how... That actually does look faster than 1.6. But that's apparently what it is. So it's possible that they've changed it, but I think from the last information that I've known, it's 1.6. I'm actually going to record. I'll watch this video in slow-mo and see if that's actually the case, but technically it should be 1.6. And now for normal weapons, which is swords, maces, war hammers, spears, what else is there? Sabers and battle axes. I think that's all of them. They have an animation time of 30 frames, and then a recovery time of 30 frames is a base, which is modified by various things. One of those things is armor, the global recovery multiplier, and a few other things. And then two-handed weapons, which have an animation time of 30 frames, and then a recovery time of 30 frames. And then I'm not sure what the calculation is. It's like it's multiplied by the global recovery multiplier, and then by 1.5, which is the recovery time multiplier for wielding a two-handed weapon. When you're wielding a one-handed weapon, the recovery time multiplier is currently 1.5, so it would be as fast as attacking with a two-handed weapon, but that may change in the future. And when you're dual wielding, there's no recovery time multiplier, it's just the weapon speed, the normal weapon recovery time, and then the next attack. So attacking with two weapons is the quickest. I won't go into much more information on that today, but dexterity in this patch is currently broken. In the next patch, it will increase both your animation time, the speed of your animation attack, or attack animation, and the speed of your recovery time, which could be quite valuable in the future. So hopefully that was easy enough to understand. It wasn't too technical, and hopefully it's given you a bit of information about how damage is calculated in Pillars of Eternity and about how to mathcraft various situations. Thanks for watching, guys, and look forward to the next video on this topic. I'm not sure what it will be on, but I'll probably do it in the next patch.